I found out my mom told 52 people at my cousin's wedding that I've never lifted a finger to help our family. 52 people, she had a list. When I discovered what she'd been saying behind my back for months, and why she was doing it, I realized I never really knew my mother at all. That's how this story ends, but let me tell you how it began. My name is Elena Rodriguez, and I'm 30 years old. I live in Millbrook, a small town in Oregon where everyone knows everyone and gossip travels faster than wildfire. I work as a pediatric nurse at Riverside Children's Hospital, and for the past 8 years, I've been the person my family calls when they need something. Not want something, need something. There's a difference, and I learned that difference the hard way. It was a Tuesday morning in March when everything started to unravel. I was getting ready for my shift, rushing around my apartment trying to find my stethoscope when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Aunt Carmen, my mom's sister who lives 3 hours away in Portland. "Elena, honey, I just wanted to check on you," Carmen said, her voice unusually soft. "After what happened at Sophia's wedding last weekend." I paused, one arm halfway through my scrub top. "What do you mean, what happened at the wedding?" There was silence on the other end. Then Carmen cleared her throat. "Oh, sweetie, you don't know." "Do you know what? Maybe I should let your mother explain." "Carmen, what happened?" Another pause. "Your mother, she was talking to people at the reception. About you, about how you never helped the family." My stomach dropped. "What did she say exactly, Elena? I don't think I should be the one to." "Carmen, please. What did she say?" I heard her take a deep breath. "She told anyone who would listen that you've never lifted a finger to help your family, that you're selfish and only think about yourself. She said you make good money as a nurse but you've never offered to help with your grandmother's medical bills, or when your brother Marcus lost his job last year, or when your dad needed surgery." I sat down hard on my bed. "She said that at Sophia's wedding, to a lot of people, Elena. I'm so sorry." I wanted to say something, but you know how your mother gets when she's on a roll. Yeah, I knew how my mother got. Victoria Rodriguez had a way of commanding a room, of making her version of events sound like gospel truth, but what she told people wasn't just wrong, it was the exact opposite of reality. After I hung up with Carmen, I called in sick to work. I couldn't concentrate on anything except the sick feeling in my stomach and the growing anger in my chest. I needed to understand what had really happened. I started making calls. My cousin Miguel, who'd been at the wedding, confirmed it. "Yeah, Elena, she was pretty vocal about it. She told my mom that you never visit your grandmother, never help with family expenses, never show up when people need you." My family friend Rosa, who'd known me since I was a child, sounded uncomfortable when I reached her. I was surprised when she said those things. "Elena, it didn't sound like the you I know." Call after call, the story was the same. My mother had spent Sophia's wedding reception painting me as the selfish daughter who'd abandoned her family responsibilities. But here's what none of those 52 people knew, what my mother had conveniently left out of her narrative. For the past 3 years, I'd been sending $500 every month to help cover my grandmother's prescription medications. Abuela Esperanza had diabetes and heart problems, and her insurance didn't cover everything. My mother had asked me to help, and I'd set up an automatic transfer without question. When my brother Marcus lost his construction job last year, I'd loaned him $3,000 to cover his rent and utilities until he found work again. He still hadn't paid me back, and I hadn't pressed him because I knew he was struggling. When my father needed gallbladder surgery and they were worried about the hospital bills, I'd quietly paid the $2,800 that their insurance didn't cover. I'd driven for hours each way every other weekend for 6 months to help take care of my grandfather when he was dying, bringing supplies, helping with his medications, giving my parents breaks so they could rest. Last Christmas, when money was tight for everyone, I'd bought all the presents for my nieces and nephews. 8 kids total, and let my siblings take the credit so the children wouldn't know their parents couldn't afford gifts. I'd missed countless social events, dates, and opportunities because someone in the family needed help. I'd used all my vacation days for the past 2 years on family emergencies instead of taking the trip to Europe. I'd been saving for. I wasn't the selfish daughter. I was the reliable one. I was the one everyone called when they needed something, and I always said yes. So why was my mother telling people the opposite? I decided to drive to Millbrook Heights, the neighborhood where I grew up, where my parents still lived in the same modest ranch house they'd bought when I was 5. It was a 40-minute drive from my apartment, and I used the time to try to calm down and figure out how to approach this. My mother was in the garden when I pulled up. Tending to her prized rose bushes, Elena Rodriguez at 55 was still a beautiful woman, with dark hair she kept perfectly styled and a smile that could charm anyone. She was wearing her gardening outfit, old jeans and a faded blue t-shirt. But somehow she made even that look elegant. "Elena," she called out, waving as I got out of my car. "What a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting you today." She looked genuinely happy to see me, which made what I had to say even harder. "Mom, we need to talk." Something in my tone must have warned her, because her smile faltered slightly. "Of course, honey. Let me just wash my hands." We went inside to the kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd done homework at the worn wooden table, where she'd taught me to make her famous tres leches cake, where we'd had countless conversations over the years. Family photos covered the refrigerator and the walls, graduation pictures, vacation shots, holiday gatherings. In many of them, I was in the background, holding a baby cousin or helping serve food or cleaning up. "Mom," I said, sitting across from her at the table, "I got a call from Aunt Carmen today." Her face went carefully blank. "Oh, she told me about what you said at Sophia's wedding. About me never helping the family." My mother's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Carmen shouldn't have called you about that, so you're not denying it? You really told people I've never lifted a finger to help this family." Victoria stood up and walked to the sink, her back to me. "Elena, you don't understand the pressure I'm under. People ask questions. They wonder why my successful daughter isn't more involved." More involved. I stood up too, my voice rising. "Mom, I send money for Abuela's medications every month. I paid for Dad's surgery. I loaned Marcus $3,000. How is that not involved?" She turned around, and for the first time, I saw something cold in her eyes. "You do the minimum, Elena. You write checks and think that's enough." The minimum. I was struggling to keep my voice level. "I've given this family tens of thousands of dollars over the past few years. I've spent every weekend I had free helping with family emergencies. What more do you want? I want you to be present. I want you to show up. I want you to act like family matters to you." "Family doesn't matter to me, Mom. I've organized every family birthday party for the past 5 years. I coordinate all the holiday dinners. I'm the one who remembers everyone's anniversaries and makes sure cards get sent. I'm the one who drove to Sacramento every other weekend when Grandpa was dying. You did those things because you felt obligated, not because you wanted to." Stared at her. "Does it matter why I did them if I still did them?" "Yes, it does. It matters that your heart isn't in it." "My heart isn't in it." I was getting louder now, years of suppressed frustration bubbling up. "Mom, I've sacrificed my entire social life for this family. I haven't been on a real vacation in 3 years because every time I plan something, someone has an emergency and needs money or help. I haven't been in a serious relationship because I spend all my free time dealing with family cries." How can you say my heart isn't in it?" Victoria sat back down, folding her hands on the table. "Because you resent it, Elena. I can see it in your face every time someone asks for help. You sigh. You act put upon. You make people feel bad for needing you." "That's not true, isn't it?" "When Marcus needed money last year, you lectured him about budgeting before you wrote the check. When I asked you to help with Abuela's medications, you wanted to see all her bills first, like you didn't trust us. You help, but you make it clear that it's a burden." I felt like I'd been slapped. I ask questions because I want to make sure the money is being used appropriately. That's not a lack of trust, that's being responsible. It's being controlling. I'm being controlling by wanting to know where my money goes. You're being controlling by acting like you're the only responsible adult in this family." We stared at each other across the kitchen table, and I realized we were having two completely different conversations. In my mind, I was the reliable daughter who always stepped up when needed. In her mind, I was the judgmental sister who helped reluctantly and with strings attached. But even if that were true, even if I had been less than gracious about helping, did that justify what she'd done? Mom, even if you think I have an attitude about helping, how does that justify telling 50 people at a wedding that I've never helped at all? You didn't just criticize my attitude. You lied about my actions. I didn't lie. You absolutely lied. You told people I've never helped with family expenses, but I've given this family over $20,000 in the past 3 years. You told people I never visit Abuela, but I was there 2 weeks ago helping her organize her medications. You told people I don't show up when the family needs me. But I've been the first person you call for every emergency. Money isn't everything, Elena. But you specifically told people I don't help financially, and that's objectively false. Victoria's voice got quieter, which somehow made it more menacing. You want to know why I said those things? Yes, I do, because I'm tired of watching you pull away from this family. I'm tired of seeing you treat us like a charity case instead of like people you love. I'm tired of feeling like I have to beg my own daughter to care about us. Pull away, Mom. I spend more time with this family than anyone except you and Dad. Physical presence isn't emotional presence. What does that even mean? It means you go through the motions, Elena, but your heart left this family years ago. You help because you feel guilty if you don't, not because you want to. And everyone can tell. I felt tears starting to build behind my eyes, but I was too angry to cry. Even if that were true, even if you really believe I'm emotionally distant, why would you handle it by humiliating me in front of the entire extended family? Why wouldn't you talk to me directly? I've tried talking to you. You don't listen. When have you tried talking to me about this, Elena? Every time I suggest family activities, you have an excuse. Every time I invite you to things, you show up late or leave early. Every conversation we have ends with you looking at your phone. I was quiet for a moment, trying to think. Was that true? Had I been dismissive without realizing it? Mom, I work 12-hour shifts at the hospital. I'm tired when I come to family events. And yes, I check my phone because I'm on call for emergencies. That doesn't mean I don't care. It means your job is more important to you than your family. My job is how I pay for things like Dad's surgery and Abuela's medications. See? You always come back to money. Like that's the only way to show love. I stood up again, pacing to the window. Outside, I could see the swing set my dad had built when my brother and I were kids. I'd spend hours on those swings, talking to my mother about everything: school, friends, dreams, fears. When had we stopped being able to talk to each other? Mom, I don't understand what you want from me. You're upset that I help the family financially but not emotionally. But when I try to be emotionally present, you criticize me for being judgmental or controlling. When I don't ask questions about money, you say I don't care enough to be involved. When I do ask questions, you say I don't trust the family. I can't win. Victoria looked at me for a long moment. Maybe that's the problem, Elena. You're always trying to win. What? You approach this family like it's a problem to be solved. Instead of a relationship to be lived, you want clear rules and measurable outcomes. You want to know exactly what's expected of you so you can check it off a list and feel good about yourself. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you called someone in this family just to talk? Not because someone needed something. Not because there was an emergency, just to see how they were doing. I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't remember. When was the last time you shared something personal with any of us? Something you were worried about or excited about or struggling with? Again, I had no answer. When was the last time you asked for help? I don't need help. Everyone needs help sometimes. Elena, the fact that you never ask for it makes everyone feel like you don't trust us or like you don't think we're capable of helping you. Or maybe it makes them feel like I don't want to be a burden. Or maybe it makes them feel like you don't consider them family. The words hung in the air between us. I sat back down. Feeling suddenly exhausted. Mom, I've spent the last 8 years trying to be the daughter you could count on. I've put this family first in every major decision I've made. I chose nursing partly because I knew it would give me flexibility to help when people needed me. I bought an apartment close to home instead of moving to Portland where I had better job opportunities. I've turned down promotions that would require travel because I didn't want to be unavailable for family emergencies. How can you say I don't consider you family? Because loving someone and managing someone are two different things, Elena. And lately, it feels like you're managing us. I thought about that. Was she right? Had I been treating my family like a series of problems to be solved rather than people to love? But Mom, even if I've been emotionally unavailable, how does publicly humiliating me help anything? How does lying about what I've contributed make the situation better? Victoria's face softened slightly. It doesn't. You're right about that. Then why did you do it? Because I was hurt. Because I felt like I was losing my daughter and I didn't know how to get you back. Because at that wedding, watching Sophia's family all together, seeing how close they are, I realized how far apart we've grown, and I was angry about it. So you decided to make everyone else angry at me too. I decided to tell them how I felt. And how I felt was that my daughter had checked out of this family emotionally, even if she was still writing checks. But what you told them wasn't how you felt, Mom. You told them factual lies about what I do and don't do for this family. You're right. I did, and I'm sorry about that. We sat in silence for a few minutes. I could hear the kitchen clock ticking. The same clock that had been there since I was a child. The roses outside the window were blooming, filling the air with their sweet scent. Mom, I said finally. I need you to understand something. Whether or not you think my heart has been in the right place, I have sacrificed a lot for this family. I've given money I couldn't really afford. I've spent time I didn't really have. I've put family needs ahead of my own needs consistently for years. Maybe I haven't done it with enough grace or enthusiasm, but I've done it. I know you have. And now, because of what you said at that wedding, 52 people think I'm a selfish daughter who's never helped her family. Do you understand how that makes me feel? I do. And I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough, Mom. You didn't just hurt my feelings. You damaged my reputation in a community where I have to live and work. Some of those people you talk to have kids who come to my hospital. Some of them work at businesses I use. Some of them are people I see at church, at the grocery store, at community events. You've made me look like a terrible person to people I have to face regularly. Victoria looked down at her hands. I didn't think about that. And what about the family? What about Marcus, who knows I loaned him $3,000? What about Dad, who knows I paid for his surgery? What about Abuela, who gets money from me every month for her medications? Now they all know that you were lying about me. How does that help family relationships? It doesn't. So what are you going to do about it? What do you mean? I mean, how are you going to fix this? How are you going to correct the lies you told? My mother was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, I don't know. That's when I realized this conversation wasn't going to end the way I'd hoped. I'd come here thinking that if I could just make my mother understand how wrong she'd been, she would immediately want to make it right. But sitting across from her, I could see that she was still more focused on defending her feelings than on addressing the damage she'd caused. Mom, I need you to call every person you spoke to at that wedding and tell them you were wrong. I need you to correct the record. Elena, I can't do that. It would be humiliating. You think it would be humiliating for you? What about how humiliated I am? That's different. How is it different? Because you're young. You'll recover from this. But if I have to call all those people and admit I was lying about my own daughter, they'll think I'm a terrible mother. You were lying about your own daughter, Mom. And right now, they think you're the victim of a selfish daughter instead of thinking you're a terrible mother. Which would you rather have them think? I'd rather have them not think about it at all. That's not an option anymore. We stared at each other across the table. And I could see in her eyes that she wasn't going to do what I was asking. She wasn't going to call those people. She wasn't going to correct the lies. She was going to let me live with the consequences of her hurt feelings and her damaged pride. Mom, if you don't fix this, I can't have a relationship with you anymore. Elena, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear. You've damaged my reputation in this community. And you've done it with lies. If you're not willing to fix what you broke, then I can't trust you. And if I can't trust you, I can't have you in my life. You would really cut off your own mother over this. I would really protect myself from someone who lies about me publicly and then refuses to correct those lies, even if that someone is my mother. Victoria stood up, her face hardening again. Fine. If that's how you want to be, then that's how we'll be. But don't come crying to me when you realize what you've thrown away. What I've thrown away, Mom, you're the one who decided to lie about me to 50 people. You're the one who's refusing to fix it. I'm not throwing anything away, I'm just refusing to let you keep damaging me without consequences. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. In the hallway, I paused at the family photos covering the walls. There I was at every major family event for the past 30 years, birthdays, graduations, holidays, weddings. Always in the background, always helping, always present. Elena. My mother called from the kitchen doorway. You're making a mistake. I turned to look at her one last time. No, Mom, you made the mistake. I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. And then I left, driving away from the house where I'd grown up, knowing that everything had changed forever. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't talked to my mother since. Though she's called several times and left voicemails I haven't returned. My father called once, asking me to work things out with your mother, but when I explained what had happened, he got quiet and said he'd have to think about it. Some of the family has reached out. Marcus texted to ask if I was okay, and Carmen called to check on me. But mostly, I've been dealing with this alone. The hardest part isn't the anger or the hurt, though those are real. The hardest part is the doubt, because even though I know my mother lied about specific facts, I keep wondering if she was right about the bigger picture. Maybe I have been emotionally distant. Maybe I have been managing the family instead of loving them. Maybe I have been going through the motions without really connecting. But even if all of that is true, I still don't think it justified what she did, and I still think she should fix it. Because here's what I've realized in these 3 weeks of thinking and reflecting. I may not have been a perfect daughter, but I was a present daughter. I may not have helped with perfect grace, but I helped consistently and generously. I may not have shared my emotions freely, but I showed my love through actions. And that should have counted for something. The fact that it didn't, the fact that my mother was willing to erase all of that in service of her own hurt feelings, tells me something important about who she is and what our relationship really means to her. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with a counselor to help me figure out how to move forward. Because I'm starting to realize that this story isn't really about what happened at Sophia's wedding. It's about a family dynamic that's been broken for a long time, and a mother who would rather rewrite history than address reality. And that's something I need to understand better before I decide what comes next. But first, I need to tell you what I found out about those 52 people and the list my mother kept, because that discovery changed everything I thought I knew about this situation. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. My cousin Sophia, the bride whose wedding had become ground zero for my mother's lies, called me 3 days after my counseling session. Elena, I need to tell you something about your mom at my wedding, she said, her voice shaky. I found something. She'd been going through wedding photos when she discovered something disturbing. Her photographer had captured my mother at the reception, holding a small notebook, systematically approaching guests. In one photo, you could clearly see her checking names off a list. She came prepared, Elena. This wasn't emotional spillover. This was planned. Sophia had talked to her mother, who remembered seeing Victoria with that notebook earlier in the day. Aunt Maria had thought it was odd but hadn't said anything. The real bombshell came when Sophia called her venue coordinator, asking if anyone had left anything behind. They had found a small black notebook in the bridal suite trash can. It was my mother's handwriting, 52 names with check marks beside them. But that wasn't the worst part. At the top of the first page, she'd written, Elena selfishness, talking points. Below that, bullet points of lies she planned to tell, including never helps financially, doesn't visit family, and too good for us now. But the final page made my blood run cold. It was titled Phase 2 and contained a timeline. She planned to spread these lies at Sophia's wedding, then at my cousin Roberto's graduation party next month, then at the church fundraiser, then at Christmas. The goal, written in her careful script, make Elena choose, fix her attitude or lose her family. She wasn't just hurt, she was orchestrating a campaign to isolate me, to force me into submission through public humiliation and family pressure. When I confronted her with the evidence, she didn't deny it. You weren't listening, she said coldly. Now you have no choice but to listen. That's when I realized I wasn't dealing with a wounded mother. I was dealing with someone who would systematically destroy my reputation to control me. I moved to Seattle 2 months later. New city, new hospital, new life. I didn't tell anyone in my family where I went. The manipulation ends when you stop participating in it. Some bridges aren't worth saving, they're worth burning.